Hi everyone, and welcome to Top 5, a series in which I look at my top 5 choices from a range of different topics and genres of film and TV. If you have any ideas of a genre or topic you'd like me to cover, then please feel free to email me your ideas. This week I'm looking at covering TV shows, and I figured I'd start this video by looking at my personal favourite TV shows of all time. With the age of box sets and binge watching thanks to channels and series from Netflix, Amazon Prime and even Disney Plus, this list was actually a lot harder than I thought it would be, and while I have had to miss off a lot of TV shows that I truly enjoy and even love, sorry Stranger Things, I have managed to break it down to my personal top 5 of all time. So, starting the list at number 5, here we go.
I'm Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, and you are?
Now, Buffy the Vampire Slayer may be a slightly dated show, and because of that, looking back at times, it can be a little bit corny, but I can't help but still love it. Made by Joss Whedon, it started as a cult film, but after it failed to do well at the box office, Joss turned his attention towards creating it into a TV series. The premise for the show was featured around the idea of having a blonde girl walking down an alleyway late at night, and rather than her being the stereotypical victim, she was actually the hero of the series. Buffy follows Buffy Summers, a vampire slayer in high school that has to balance her social life with being tasked at killing monsters and saving the world on more than one occasion. Yet despite 7 seasons, the show is never stale, with writers pushing themselves to take new and risky ideas at every opportunity, including one episode with no sound and even a later episode entirely dedicated as a musical episode. The show was never lazy and never took an easy option out when telling their story. There's real development and growth with these characters as they face consequences to their choices and have to grow up across the series, going from high school students to adults by the end, that engage you throughout the entire 7 series.
Blah, I've heard it, okay? Why am I still talking to you?
Marriage, or any partnership for that matter, is a give and a take. We are a family, so we're gonna deal with this as a family.
It's hard to imagine now with Netflix and Amazon Prime making TV shows almost daily, but there was a time when TV wasn't taken that seriously. Not of course by audiences, but by the actors themselves. This all changed with James Gandolfini when he took on the famous role of Tony Soprano in the HBO mega hit The Sopranos. Here he saw the opportunity through HBO to do a character-driven series, and while HBO had some success with their prison series Oz, it was The Sopranos that put them on the map. There has been a lot on the ending of the series, and in particular the final shot, and I would definitely suggest avoiding Googling the show at all costs because it's been out long enough that spoilers appear to be completely fair game. The show itself explores the mafia world like no other. While there are times when the lifestyle is glamorized, it is explored entirely throughout the show as more of a struggle with the criminal life for those that it affects and those that are in it, not just by the hits and the killings, but the mental toll as well. The characters are what drive the show, and they are all flawed, but that's what makes them so real, and in a way that arguably film just couldn't explore in its 1.5 to 2 hour runtime. As the late James Gandolfini said himself, he's been able to do more with Tony as a character than he ever could do on stage or in film. For a show that's over a decade old, it couldn't be more relevant today.
Do not do it!
Hello, I'm Leslie Knope from the Pawnee, Indiana. No!
Originally intended as a spin-off to the US Office, Parks and Recs grew into its own show. Following the same documentary style, Parks and Recs follows a group of staff that all work in the council park department for the small town of Pawnee, Indiana. I'll actually start with the end here, because in all the hours, and let's face it, days if not weeks I have consumed of TV, I have never seen a better ending to a show. Due to fan demand, they actually decided to make one final series after the episode, and give each character the chance to have their own final farewell. It was excellent, and certainly set the bar on how to end a series. I agree that the first few episodes, while good, don't appear to be anything special. It was after this that the creators took a step back, and had more faith in their actors to improvise the lines, where the show really begins to shine. The entire cast are fantastic, bringing their own style of comedy to each one of their characters, and not just from the supporting characters that you'll grow to love, but many of the guest actors that appear and continue to appear throughout the show, many of whom you all recognise today. Hilarious throughout, this series never gets old, and bows out way before it could become repetitive. As such, it demands repeat viewing, and every time I've rewatched this series over and over again, I've laughed at something new. It's one of the best comedy series I've ever seen on TV.
Treat yourself.
It's been 2 years since I seen home. 2 years.
You take Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg creating a show together, set it with one of the most amazing true stories ever told, and you're going to get something special. While my list is a personal top 5, and for that reason it's not on my number 1 spot, I would argue that Band of Brothers is actually perhaps the greatest TV show ever made. The series follows the true story of a group of soldiers throughout World War II that started by landing in France and finishing the war in Germany. The struggle throughout the war, and more importantly the bond they make because of the incredible journey, is what sets this series apart from any other war show I've seen before. Uniquely, at the start of each episode, you have the real people explaining their thoughts and telling about the events that take place in the episode, without ever revealing until the very end who they are, as to not give away any spoilers as to who makes it. In fact, the final sequence of the series is bound to hit you hard, and I don't know many people that haven't been moved to tears by the end. The show looks like an extended episode of Saving Private Ryan, with the budget of HBO making a series of Hollywood blockbuster-style action sequences and the horrendous conditions the soldiers had to fight in. Yet the documentary style at the very beginning of each episode constantly reminds you and grounds you to the fact that these were real people, these are real events, all of this stuff that you're watching actually happened, and it makes each death that much more haunting and every victory that much more important. That's how the show feels, important. A way of engaging audiences with one of the most crucial points in our history like never before. That is not to say it's of course not a hard watch, it's heartbreaking, with one episode showing that these group of soldiers were in fact those that discovered and liberated a concentration camp, and it's a particularly harrowing episode of TV. But it's an important show to watch nonetheless, and is without a doubt one of the finest series of TV ever created.
We're a special group, found in one another a bond. It exists only in combat.
Now, as I said before, while I believe Band of Brothers is perhaps the most important series on this list, and critically the best, this is my own personal list of top 5. And so, my number 1 spot goes to none other than Joss Whedon's Firefly.
Yeah, I did a job. I got nothing but trouble since I did it, not to mention more than a few unkind words as regard to my character, so let me make this abundantly clear. I do the job. And then I get paid. Go run your little world.
For the second time on this list, Joss Whedon appears. There is so much I can say about this show that I couldn't possibly fit it all into this video. Its main cultural recognition, of course, comes from the fan outrage of its cancellation, often listed as TV's biggest mistake and joked about in other series about over how ridiculous it was that it was cancelled in the first place. The fans for this show, or known as Browncoats, are so passionate that Joss Whedon got the chance to finish the story he set up after the show was cancelled so suddenly, and was able to fund together a huge blockbuster film called Serenity, being made up of the entire original cast, just in a bit of a grander scheme of things, and able to finish the story he set off to make. I would highly recommend waiting for the film and starting with the show first. The plot is set way in the future as a group of almost space pirates try to find whatever job they can, all the while avoiding the Alliance government. While set in space, the series often has a Western vibe to it, as most of the planets are struggling and reverted to old-fashioned methods to survive. Even the way the show is filmed has these same techniques, with certain scenes being overexposed, long focus pulls, all of it put together to add this element of charm to the series. It's sad, it's funny, it's gripping, it's thought-provoking. Josh is of course well known for making many hybrid genre films and TV shows, with Doll's House, Buffy and even the Avengers films, but this show is a prime example of the multitude of genres involved. It's a space western, comedy, romance, drama, horror. I've often talked a lot about characters throughout this list, as I believe the strong characters are what grip and connect the audience the most, and this series in my opinion has the greatest group of characters in all of TV. On board the ship you have a priest with a dark past, to a tough guy with a secret heart of gold, and the love-struck, intelligent female mechanic. But all of this show is pulled together by its main protagonist, Malcolm Reynolds, played by Nathan Fillion. He is a true testament to great character. As an outlawed leader of the group, the captain of the Firefly vessel, it's his moral compass and his sense of code and loyalty to his crew that make for one of the most complex and engaging characters I've ever seen on TV. Without a doubt, the pinnacle of Joss Whedon's career and my favourite TV show of all time.
Wise men, I'm not threatening you. I'm unarmed. Good.
So no more running. I am to misbehave.
Well, that's it. Did you agree with my list? Any thoughts, please feel free to email me. And if you want me to cover a topic in particular, just let me know and I'll make sure I cover it in the top 5. Next week, we'll be looking at my top 5 horror films of all time, followed by binge-worthy TV shows you just have to watch. But for now, thanks for watching.